It's review time in World of Tanks with Dangerously Incompetent. Today, the Spähpanzer SP I C, German, Tier 7, light tank. Before 9.18 came out, I was playing this tank a load with a view to reviewing it, and then 9.18 came out and I thought, oh no, it's been nerfed, even though it wasn't very good to begin with, because it lost its autoloader. It doesn't have a 3-clip autoloader now, only got a 90mm cannon. Boo. I thought, oh, that's it. Has it been improved? Well, its engine speed's gone up, but it's lost its autoloader. So has my rating of it gone from meh to better, or meh to thumbs down? Find out by watching the rest of this video, or fast forwarding it to the end where I summary. So, in detail, let's have a look. We start with the armour. Where have we gone? Survivability, 15mm at most. You've got no armour, practically speaking. The only shots that hit you that do no damage are going to the impossible ricochets off edges and corners, or a track hit. You hit, you suffer damage in this thing, practically speaking. Your armour's not stopping anything. But then you're a light tank, so that's what you expect, right? So mobility, you'd expect... Oops. Sorry. Mobility, there we go. Now this has improved in 9.18, mainly because its engine power has bumped up significantly. Before, its acceleration absolutely abysmal, and I put its mobility as awful. Now its mobility is okay. Specific power is comparable to the other Tier 7 lights, and the traverse is comparable, and the top speed it's a bit slow on the slow side, but it's comparable. That's a limited. And overall its mobility is okay. It's better than medium and light. Well, it's comparable with mediums, I reckon. Better than heavies, but it's worse than the other Tier 7 light tanks. So your mobility is not great. It's a bit meh, I'd say. But there is a plus point to mention in mobility that I shouldn't forget. The tracks are very resilient. They'll take a lot more punishment than other Tier 7 other light tanks, in my experience. You can go over jumps quite happily in this thing, as long as you don't land on your hull, in which case you're probably dead. As long as you're landing on your tracks, and you can drop quite a long way. So that's a good thing. So you can run along screaming, I don't want to slow down for this jump. I don't want to slow down, I'm going to get hit. But the jump's going to get... Oh no, the tracks have survived. I'm still moving. Hooray! But then there's another bad point. Most tanks will actually turn on the spot. They'll spin exactly on the spot. But this thing won't. It'll turn around a track, which is something to watch out for if you're behind a small bush and you're turning in order to prepare to run away. If you're not careful, this turning around the track will mean you poke out from the side of the bush and get seen. And that's happened to me more than once. Gun! Unlike your brothers at Tier 7, you've got a big gun, apart from the Wiz 131, that's also got a big gun. Oh, and the LTG is fairly big, but all the other guns are pee-pee, pee-pee, compared to yours. So you got a good high amount of damage, good damage, got good penetration, you've got decent turret traverse, good gun depression, though don't try fighting crests with this, because you can't rely on your mantlet armour. It's worth doing once, just to, because you're hiding most of your tank, but it means you've slowed down. So all in all, maybe not use the crest fighting style with this thing. Your armor's too weak, and you're such a tempting target when you do that for artillery, because you slow down, and other people if they're looking at your side. Aim time, that's good. Dispersion, that's good. And now comes the bad bit, your rate of fire. It's a very small, cramped tank. The commander is also the loader, and I also believe he's the radio operator as well. Anyway, he's doing a lot of things, so which means your rate of fire is low. That's the bad part. and that gives you a low DPM compared to the other tier 7 light tanks. So overall, I would rate the gun as meh. It's pretty good for sniping, but it's bad for dogfighting. Camouflage, that's a good point on this tank. It's very narrow, it's very short, it's quite high. It's quite high off the ground here, a lot of ground clearance there. But overall, its concealment is excellent. These are bumped up stats. And remember, you're a light tank, so you keep that concealment whilst you're running around screaming, going, don't shoot me, don't shoot me, don't shoot. Oh, phew, they can't see me anymore. Hooray, I'm safe. Yes, so good concealment. Good camouflage. Other bits, view range, that's reasonable, pretty good. Well, no, it's good. Not just reasonable, it's good. So that's the specific stuff, in detail stuff covered. Overall, with all these statty bits, reasonable mobility, reasonable gun, good concealment and view range. Makes it good for spotting and sniping. Not so good at dogfighting. Equipment, what equipment did I put in? Let's start with the consumables because they've changed in 9.18, well the large ones have at any rate. You use a large consumable, a large repair kit in battle, that's it, at the end of the battle you've got to pay to put a new one in. But after 90 seconds, it's ready for use again. So it makes them definitely worthwhile having, especially on your higher tier tanks. So that's what I run with. Didn't run with fire extinguisher, only 15% fire chance on the top engine. I ran with chocolate. Before 9.18 this tank was desperate for chocolate. It's horrible without it. With it became sort of average. Now I'd say it still needs chocolate. Not so badly, but it still needs chocolate to be competitive. And that's expensive. It's 20,000 a battle. Unless you save up and then buy boxes and box huge amounts of chocolate when it's on half price, like this weekend, which I'll be shortly spending all the rest of my money on. More chocolate. Before 9.18 I was bumping along, breaking even credit wise on half price chocolate, but now since 9.18 the matchmaker changes, light tanks are only +2 tiers, which means this tank no longer sees tier 10s, and spotting tier 10s and doing damage to tier 10s, that was my profit centre. So now, since 9.18, over 120 games, I've been making a loss with half price chocolate. Unless you run premium, you can't afford chocolate. Which means and it's the chocolate that makes this tank competitive, because all the stats are so-so. You need that extra 10% on your crew skills. So that was consumables. Equipment. The actual equipment, it can fit vertical stabilizers, so you should fit vertical stabilizers. Well, it's a choice. Because of the way this tank, what this tank is good at is spotting, which makes you think, I do want vertical stabilizers because I'm zooming around and shooting, but actually no, it's not so hugely accurate, and it's not fast firing, so you don't want to go dogfighting with it. It's good at sniping, which means vertical stabilizers aren't so important. I mean, you could put in a gun rammer, do more damage, or a gun laying drive, get more accuracy more quickly for helping you sniping. So it's a choice. I'd say vertical stabilizers. I've put in coated optics. I'm getting to the stage where I don't need them because I've got chocolate and I've got 100% crew, and my commander is now learning recon, which ups your view range, and it's got good view range to begin with. But starting out, I would recommend coated optics, and if you can't afford them, then binoculars. Vents I'm running with just to improve everything, because everything needs improving. Not so much, it's not so desperate in 9.18 as it was, but it's still a good thing to have. Other things you can have if you're doing things on the cheap: camouflage net. Its camouflage is good. With a camouflage net you can really go to town on shooting from concealment. Other things you might want in when you're starting out: binocular telescope if you're doing things on the cheap, otherwise coated optics. A gun rammer and enhanced gun laying drive are always nice, and depending on how you play, you could go with those instead of a gun laying drive and vents. So I went with that. Starting out and doing it on the cheap: camo net, vents, gun rammer would be my suggestion. Skills. When I started out with this tank in 9.17, I was desperate to improve everything. So I wanted Brothers in Arms. But more importantly than Brothers in Arms for your skills is camouflage. You absolutely must have a high camouflage in this tank. You need it so much. You need to hide. And it's got good camouflage to start with, so I mean, look how much. I've got one more camos on now. 100%, 100% and 71%. Look at the concealment skill. That adds 11 per stationary. That's stationary. That's a lot. Not so much after you've just fired, but it's still a lot, and it really helps. So first choice on your skills is camouflage, and keep it up. You'll notice, well, keep it up, especially if you're doing, remember to keep it up if you're doing the trick where you go 100% camouflage and then about 30 odd percent-ish on your next skill. Alright, I'll take them off and put in the skill that needs, or the perk that needs 100% before it's effective, like Brothers in Arms. Or Sixth Sense, which the sharp-eyed amongst you may notice I don't have. That's because initially I was desperate for the camouflage and then Brothers in Arms, and then once I got those I thought, actually, let's try not having, I got used to not using Sixth Sense again, because once you got it you tend to rely on it an awful lot. So let's have an experiment and not go with Sixth Sense. Instead I'm going with Recon, which means I'll be able to drop my optics in a bit. There's advantages to that doing, well yeah, the advantage is you can stick your skills on other stuff. The disadvantage is with a light tank, a lot of the time you're running across open ground and then getting into cover. If that cover is a soft, i.e. a bush, and you've been spotted and you sit in that bush and you're stationary, you've just made yourself a sitting duck. So Sixth Sense is really useful at that point, because spending all that time in the open ground, you'll have been, your Sixth Sense will have gone off, so you know, right, I'm spotted, I can't sit in the bush, I can't afford to do that. So I've not been, when I've had to cross open ground, I've not been stopping if the cover at the end is a bush. If the cover at the end is hard cover like a building, then you're alright, because they can't shoot you, there's a building in the way. But that does mean lost opportunities, particularly in the rush for the initial spotting bush sort of thing. So if you're starting out, I would now recommend camouflage and then Sixth Sense on the commander, and then maybe the third skill, Brothers in Arms. For the gunner, camouflage and then snapshot, help your initial aim. And for the driver, camouflage and then smooth ride, help your an aim where you're driving around. Or maybe even what's the one that helps you go over soft ground without so many penalties? I've forgotten the name of it. That one would also be useful to keep your mobility up while you're crossing soft and boggy ground. That's the skills. Free XP. Where would we spend the free XP? I should recommend upgrading your engine with free XP before you even set forth to battle in this tank. Ups your engine power, makes you more manoeuvrable. Brings your manoeuvrability up to okay from awful. It's the same weight, so you don't need to upgrade the tracks. Tracks are a bit faster on the old traverse. When you upgrade, you can afford to wait and spend XP that you've earned on the tank on that, and then The turret and the gun are only slight improvements, they're not huge. That's where your next earned XP goes on the tank. And then the radio, you don't need to bother upgrading at all, because the base radio, 720 meters signal range, that's more than enough for all the maps. In fact, I wouldn't bother researching this radio at all, and I really should take it out, because it's a bit of extra signal range which is not needed, and it's a bit of extra weight. Should have done that earlier. Never mind. Back to the garage. Let's compare to other tier 7 light tanks. You've got a 90mm cannon. Wiz has got 90, I think, but its damage and penetration is practically the same. Next is a 75mm at the AMX. Everything else has got smaller pew 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 guns. So they do less damage per hit, but they do it faster. Especially the clips. The T71 and the AMX 1375, they're both autoloaders. If they've got a full clip, they will out DPM you and kill you real quick. Mind you, you've got the edge on penetration and damage, and you've got the edge on accuracy and aiming. But overall, your DPM is the worst of all tier 7s. Combine that with mobility. You have, let's see, specific power, you're on the bottom end but comparable with everyone else. Top speed, the bottom end but comparable with everyone else. Traverse, low end but comparable with everyone else. Your mobility is worse than all the other tier 7 lights. As I compare that with your low DPM, means you're the worst at dogfighting. All these tanks will rip you apart if you dogfight them. Apart from the T71 and the AMX 1375, if their clip is empty. But if their clip is empty, they've probably run off already, so you're not going to meet them. So avoid dogfighting any of your tier 7 brothers, is my recommendation. Instead, you should use your top rate, well, apart from the LTG, your top rate camouflage rating, and do the spotting and shooting from concealment, because your spotting is the best. Top best, equal, but it's still comparable. It's not a huge advantage, but it is an advantage. Your advantage is in your concealment and your spotting and your alpha damage compared to everyone else. So you spot and you shoot from concealment and you do not dogfight. How to play? Well, I've just mentioned it, haven't I? Do not dogfight. Do the spotting. So what I ended up doing was running around, doing the initial spot, using my speed and small size maneuverability to avoid being hit, and then once the enemy have been spotted and they were starting shooting, and people on my team can then see them, I'd run off into cover, lose my spot, get into cover, and shoot from concealment. Bam, 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 and that's where I got the 2 marks of excellence on the gun barrel. I'm doing better than however much percentage of everyone else who's used this tank. I was quite happy with the amount of damage I'm chucking out this way. But you absolutely do not want to dogfight. That just leads to you being dead. By dogfighting, I mean engaging in the other enemy light tanks, the other enemy medium tanks. They will out dogfight you as well because they've got armor and you can't circle of death them. Enemy heavies and tank destroyers, slow tank destroyers, yeah, you could circle of death them and you can engage them reasonably safely, but it is hard work at times, even with the heavies. Unless, of course, it's a Japanese heavy, in which case you can just snuggle up to its side and it can't get his gun to you. What else did I want to mention? There's something else. Oh yeah. In not cooperation. At the same with the running away, the spotting and the running away. You're a middle distance tank. You do not want to be up close and personal. You don't want to be super far away. Oh, that's something I forgot to mention about the gun. The gun velocity is low. The muzzle velocity is low. So if you're taking long shots, the lead time is really rather long, which means you've got much fewer shots hitting because the enemy has got much more opportunity to slow down or speed up or stop, turn around before your shot, after you've fired, before the shot gets there. Long shots at fast moving targets are real difficult because it takes such a long time for the shell to get there. So you're not a long distance tank, really. You're a medium distance tank, which means you can spot, you can shoot from concealment with your high camo rating, and you've got enough mobility to get to the bushes, shooting from concealment at middle distance. You've got a good view range, so you can spot them before they spot you, which means, yeah, middle distance tank. Don't be up close and personal, that'll get you killed. Don't be all the way at the end of the map because you won't get the hits in. Middle distance. The performance overall of this tank, according to VB Addict, over all players in recent months, is poor. 49% win rate, and that's 6 out of the 7 tier 7 light tanks. I managed to beat that quite handily at 64%, which I'm really rather pleased with. But bear in mind, I've got 100% crew with Brothers in Arms, and I'm using chocolate. That's where my 64, my higher than average win rate has come from. Oh, and being a halfway decent player, and yeah. So if you're new to World of Tanks, this tank is definitely one to avoid. And if you're not, unless you're running with premium, if you're running with premium, you can put chocolate in and be competitive and get a decent win rate out of it. But if you've not got premium, you're going to make a credit loss if you run with chocolate, and that's at buying half price chocolate. So your performance is going to either cost you, or it's going to be average to poor. In summary, welcome to all those of you who fast forwarded all the way to the end. In summary, it's a turkey. Not the biggest turkey on the farm, but it's definitely a turkey. It absolutely must have chocolate and Brothers in Arms in order to be competitive, which means it makes it a credit loser. So it gets the Dangerously Incompetent meh to thumbs down. Worse than average.